Welcome to Best in Faction.
The next generation.
A podcast where we're always on time at our regularly scheduled start time of 8:30 p.m. PST on Friday evenings.
I'm Tyler.
I'm Nick.
Brigando.
That's Lucas. And tonight is the night of all nights because it's time for late night TNG fight. There's no fight, actually, but it is late night. It is TNG, and it's coming at you right now. We have had an eventful couple of weeks. We've got an eventful couple of weeks coming up. And by eventful, I mean quite literally full of events, tournaments of the Warhammer 40k variety. So very excited to be breaking down for you a GT that my two brothers in Christ and in Warhammer arms, they just got two of them just like stuck to their shoulders, brought back some pretty solid results out of that event. Very excited to break it down for you. Who was there? What happened? Who came out on top? Which cuisine reigns supreme, and related things. But before we jump into any of that nonsense and talk about the Turkey Wars, we got to check in with the guys because it's been a minute and 12 seconds. How are we doing tonight, Lucas?
Pretty good. Not a lot going on for me lately. Just working on a lot of hobby projects. Finished up my first ever World Leader the other day, which was really sick. Got that guy painted up for Mr. Vanilla, Mr. Violence himself. So very proud of him. He looks really sick. And now I'm pivoting some of my own hobby projects. Going to finish up some of the Night Lords. I've got like 50% done. And rebasing my Chaos Knights as well because I'm tired of their crappy old look. So I'm getting them up to snuff a little bit with the intention of taking them to Atomic City next weekend, which is going to be really fun. So yeah, just plugging away at my hobby projects and having a good time. How about you, Nick? How you doing?
I'm doing well, dude. This has been a packed... Oh, this is still here. All right. This has been a packed couple weeks for me. We had Harbor, and then we had Charity Hammer. I was sick for that, unfortunately. But you guys went to Charity Hammer. Then we had Harbor, and then after that we had Turkey Wars. After that, I was out of town for a weekend for a friend's wedding, a friend from college, all the way over in San Antonio, Texas, which was a good time. Had a good weekend doing that. This weekend, it is my girlfriend's birthday, so we're going to be out of town for that. And then the weekend after that, we're going to Atomic City. So, yeah, went from what I thought was Warhammer-less fall, went to a Warhammer-packed fall as the game got good to play. Again, surprise, when the game's fun, we want to go to events. Yeah, so I've been playing Votann a lot in tournaments and practice games. Tinkering with a few different things in the background. I don't think I'll be able to really change much before Atomic City, but who knows? Maybe our discussions tonight will convince me to try something else. So something else with Votann. I'm not going to be faction hopping a week before an event.
You're welcome to my GC if you want it.
I mean, the infinite bombas are pretty tantalizing, but I don't really want to have to be the one to explain that to the judge there. So
what if they deep strike turn one?
Yeah, I don't really want to explain that one either. I think I'm just going to put my guys in cars and zoom around.
Are you gonna judge other people who happen to be in cars?
Well, that one's a funny one. I don't really. That ruling is very interesting, is what I'll say. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. How about you, Tyler? How's it going over there?
I'm doing real well, dude. I similarly have been super busy. I wasn't even able to make it to Turkey Wars because I had other plans that weekend. Stuff's been nonsense. I'm gearing up to go to Cali Cup next weekend. I will not be joining y'all at Atomic City. I'm going to go to Cali Cup, which is going to be real great. And I am bringing 100 termagants and 40 gargoyles that all needed to get painted. So this has been a crazy week getting there. We're working our way through. We're doing it in one big batch. So, everything's about halfway. We'll get the rest of it done this weekend, hopefully. So that's been fun. The big development, though, over here in the Trap House is that we have our bit rep setup up and running again. If for those of y'all who don't know, all three of us ended up moving house shortly after WTC at the end of August. And as a result of that, have all gotten re-kerfuffled. And the place we used to do bit reps is no longer a place that any of us are renting. So we've got a new setup going in our new place. And it is way better than the last one. The camera angle is actually top down, not at like 85 degrees. We've got better terrain. We've got better lighting. It's looking really cool. Very excited about that. Lucas and I filmed a game that we need to do commentary for. Maybe we'll do that tonight, depending on how late our roommate stays out. Lucas did a game with our boy Tanner Herbert, who you may know if you're from around here, of World Leader versus Chaos Knights. That's already been commentated. That's going up on the YouTubes very soon. It honestly might already be up. I didn't even check. I'm honestly checking.
I think it's being processed, I think.
It's being edited still? All right, cool. Yeah, but that's going to be happening. So if you're listening to this in the future, it's probably already up by then. That's really exciting. Very excited to be getting a ton of stuff done with that. Bringing y'all lots of bit rep content. Also, hopefully some live streams. Maybe a little bit of both simultaneously if we do a recording live stream combo. But I'm very excited about that. So there's just so much going on right now in the Wild World of Warhammer. Not to mention that this week we got the NTL announcement and the Champions Cup announcement for 8-man teams is going to be the thing in the next calendar year, apparently. There are 18 8-man team events in a league, culminating in a massive one happening in SoCal in October next year. So that's crazy. Like, it's a great time to be alive and especially to be a 40K player. So I am having a great one, and I'm looking forward to hearing about what y'all have been up to over the course of the show. You guys have any comments on some of that news that's been going on? Any of this NTL Champions Cup stuff? Anything y'all want to say for anyone out there who might be interested in that or curious what's going on? You know, what's the official messaging from TNG on the NTL?
If you haven't played Teams, you should. It is easily, by far and away, the best way to play 40K. It's an absolute blast. Yeah, I mean, just kind of like the bare basics of how it all works. You know, you'll need your 7 best 40K friends and yourself to sign up for, I don't know if it's like a national tabletop league or that, like the Champions Cup. Which one of those you have to sign up for, but one of those two, you'll sign up for that, and you can, you guys could basically all be on a team together, and I think one of you guys has to be designated as captain, and then from there it's just let the good times roll with playing team events all across the United States, which is going to be super sick, and elsewhere as well, but this is specifically focused on team events in the States because they haven't really been a thing for the longest time. So, yeah. Just keep your eyes and ears open for more news on that, and start getting your teams rustled up because it's going to be a blast.
Hell yeah. Go for it, Nick.
I think it was really exciting how we went from one 5-man teams event starting up here in the PNW to like 15 8-man teams events.
There are 18 8-man team events a part of the NTL next year.
18 8-man teams events over the span of a season. Isn't the season, though, like a year and a half or something? Again,
there are 18 happening in the next 12 months.
Yeah.
Oh, or wait. It might be until the end of...
I think it was like July 2025 or something.
But they don't start until like March or something like that.
Yeah. But like that's super hype. How we went from like a bunch of regions kind of starting smaller team tournaments to like this massive multi-spanning, like country-spanning league. The communication that's happening behind the scenes is like super cool. Just seeing all these people reaching out and coordinating together too, so they're not like, hopefully, not scheduling things on top of each other. That was one of like the biggest bummers with Brood Wars, right? Was one of our 5-man teams events. Ended up we scheduled it months in advance, and then GW dropped their team event the same weekend, so we couldn't really convince anyone to fly out to us to play because they're all like, well, we'll fly to KC because it's bigger event, more consistent, like when we'll consistently run and closer to us. So yeah, I think it's super exciting, and I'm hyped.
Hell yeah, dude. A little clarification for some of y'all who I've seen a lot of questions popping up here. You don't need to have a singular team registered for the entirety of the NTL. The only thing that is taking registration right now is Frontlines Champions Cup. You can apply to be a part of that event. It's an application process because it's a really big event and they want to get as many people locked in as possible. So they'll basically approve you. You'll get added to some stuff, and just so there's a conversation going on the whole time, so that we don't end up with like 5 teams who registered and have spots that other people want just not coming at all. That's all that's going on there. Don't worry about that. It's nothing crazy. Any of the other events that are not the Champions Cup, they're all being run totally independently. The only thing that is uniting these events, as I understand it, is that they are being played on a unified format. They have a terrain layout that is going to be consistent across all of them. They have an FAQ. They will all be using the WTC FAQ is essentially what it comes down to. There may be it may be a little bit more nuanced than that, but everyone's playing the same 40K at all of these events, which is a dream that we have had for so long, and particularly not something that has materialized in terms of team events before. So this is very exciting in that way. Big shout out to all the guys who are working on this stuff, and to the Army Banner for backing it all, because there were a lot of the fundings coming from to make this all happen. Very exciting stuff. Cool. So that's kind of what's going on in the wider world of Warhammer at the moment. But let's narrow in now from a giant league of team events to a singular singles event, which is taking place a couple weeks ago, which was the Pecking Order's Turkey Wars 2023. This is, of course, an event that we have all attended in the past. I believe Mr. Olson Johnson over here happened to dominate it last year with Necrons, which was pretty sweet. We'll see if he's able to pull that off again with the Dwarfs. But let's jump right into it. You guys want to give this on the front end a little bit of an event review? You know, Chase runs a pretty tight ship, but I'd love to shout him out and give some praise where praise is due. How did y'all think Turkey Wars went?
Yeah, this is run at the Olympia. Honestly, don't actually know the name of the hotel because we butcher the name every time on purpose because it's funny. But it's something like Olympia Hotel on Capitol Lake or something like that. It's a great hotel. They've got a great ballroom downstairs, food on site, affordable rooms, breakfast. We got a lot of good friends up in Olympia as well. Yeah, I mean, Chase has run events there a few times now, and this one just felt like a well-oiled machine. We just showed up, played, and then left. There was no snags, there was no scheduling kerfuffles, there was nothing goofy like the night of the teams event where they were trying to set up all the tables and they couldn't find the TO because they were actually supposed to set them up in the morning or something like that. So it all went well, and honestly the event felt really fast. Felt like blinked and it was over. So yeah, it's a great place. There were some rumors about the hotel maybe closing down and this being the last event there, which was a bummer to hear about. But Chase releases event schedule for next year and said it's going to be at the same place. So if so, the events are like real chill. It's not like a noisy place at all or anything like that. It's a really like relaxed environment as well. Like if you want to, you can go take walks like in the, you know, there's kind of like this big kind of forest around the hotel that you can like walk around in between rounds if you want to. So I love the events that he runs, and this one was great.
Lucas gives a thumbs up of approval. Let's jump right into it. Starting off with the lists. Nick over here has got his what he's calling his mighty minuscule muscle men. Not muscle. I'm just mighty minuscule men. What do we got in terms of Votan here, Nick?
Yeah, so this was the list that I played at the RTT a few weeks ago. It was basically taking that 4 Sagittar list that I brought to Harbor and trying to fiddle around with having like what I could add, what I had to cut to add in a 5th Sagittar. So the characters that we've got the Iron Here Champion with the Praise and Glare. He's a guy that gives reroll charges to his unit. Praise and Glare is the pointed objectives your opponent controls in your command phase to count the units on that as having 1 more token than they currently have. We have the Grimnir with Wayfarer's Grace. He's not really super special. He's got like a decent gun. More importantly, Wayfarer's Grace is the stand back up on a 2-up the first time he dies, end of phase. Very good for a lot of those like 1-phase armies. There's a Call with Grim Demeanor. He gives his unit lethal hits, and more importantly, Grim Demeanor gives ignore all modifiers. And since we were playing with the WTC version of that interpretation of that rule, it means he ignores -1 to hit, wound, and more importantly, damage, AOC. So like have damage, -1 damage doesn't work, which is great. I have Uthar the Destined. He's the funny little like just slappy character. He's got a goofy little rule where he reduces all incoming damage to 1. And he can either hang out on his own or hang out with a unit of Hearthkin, and they kind of like get to roadblock something, or he can run in and like snipe something important. Or since he's a character, he could epic challenge out a support character. So he's a neat little piece that I've been enjoying a lot. 2 squads of 10 Hearthkin. I'm running the double melee weapons and the melee weapon on the Sergeant with the plasma pistol. And those go with the Feel No Pain and the comms, because those units usually run up into people's faces, throw grenades, sock them in the mouth, flip an objective. And then the other Hearthkin just on their own with the Ignores Cover guy. They run out and grab an objective and die. Thank you for your sacrifice, guys. 5 Sagittars with the funny beams that always roll 6s. 6 Thunderkin. I opted to go with the big 6-man squad because they're more receptive to buffs. And something I was noticing a lot on the GW terrain, especially the format we're playing up here, there's a lot of these like wide open shooting lanes. So the thing about the Thunderkin is, since they only move 5 and shoot 18, their weakness is like lumbering around the board and not being able to shoot stuff. But I often deployed them on the board just like on my backfield. So if someone tried to push into me, they could walk like this way or this way and just counter shoot whatever tried to push into me. And that worked out pretty well. Rounding out the list, got 2 big bricks of 10 Hearthguard. That's the 2-up armor, like Terminator equivalent. I opted to go with all plasma just because our meta is super vehicle heavy, which plasma I feel is a little bit better into than the Volkites. I know the math says it's about the same, but at least the plasma to me feels more consistent without investing CP, and sometimes you can't invest the SC2 strat into both of them because they're both on the board. And then they also have the gauntlets as well, concussion gauntlets. And then I have 2 squads of 3 bikes with the minigun, the Ignores Cover, and the Ignore Stealth. That's the list. I think it's 2,000 points on the nose.
Very cool. And Lucas over here is bringing his Orcs, nope, his Chaos Knights, nope, his Sons of Nostramo. What do we got, Lucas?
The Night Lords, baby. I had so much fun at this tournament playing Chaos-based Reigns. And I know they're a little silly right now, so it was fun to get to dip my toes into something that was like truly OP, but also still like not play the cutting edge list. It was just like a fun blend of all the different things. So yeah, I had my CSM list here. Abaddon, 2 squads of 10 Nurgle cultists, 5 Khorne Terminators to be Don's bodyguard and be a slingshot for him, 2 squads of 5 Slaanesh Talons, 2 squads of 4 Obliterators, one's a Nurgle, one's Undivided, 2 Forge Fiends with plasma cannons, or ectoplasma cannons, one's Nurgle, one's Undivided, and 4 squads of 3 Nurglings. So lots of big bricks of Daka with Abaddon kind of locking down the castle.
Very cool indeed. I know that this was a little bit of a departure from somewhat you had been playing previously in terms of, you slimmed down the Terminators, you brought in some other stuff. What was the thought process here? Nick talked about his recent journey. What was kind of the trajectory leading into this list?
So I kind of realized that what I've been calling the firepower list, which is, bring all Obliterators and Forge Fiends, Abaddon with 10 Terminators, and you just try to like body your opponent with those 5 units, was very much on the decline because of the now cheapness of a lot of the MSU that CSM can bring to the table while still doing a ton of damage with those units. So people are bringing a lot more things like Rhinos, Chosen, Warp Talons, lots more Demon allies, maybe even dropping Abaddon altogether in favor of like more Lords, so you can spread the damage out across your army in different places. So I was running the Terminators for a while because I just finished painting them. They're like 95% done now, and I really wanted to see them actually hit the table at a tournament. But I was not having a lot of success with the 10-man squad because it was just so many points invested in a movement 5 unit. It was just not really doing me a lot of service. So I decided to kind of compromise a little bit, go with 5 Terminators instead of 10 so I could still see them on the table and let them have their time in the sun. But also free up some points for other things. That bought me, like, basically the 2 squads of Warp Talons, just about. So had to make some sacrifices to fit in more MSU so I could actually play the game, but had a lot of fun regardless. And Abaddon and the Khorne Terminators were, they did a lot of work over that weekend, but I could see why people are dropping them. So I'll get a little bit into that as we review the event and the games we played.
Very cool. Well, let's jump right into it. Round 1, we're playing Crucible of Battle. That's I Can't Believe It's Not Hammer and Anvil, or Old School Bomber Mission, or the shorter of the 2 diagonals, whatever you want to call it. Purge the Foe, or kill 1, kill more, hold 1, hold more. 8th at ITC, as they say. And I imagine Chilling Reign, because we got nothing else listed here. So, jumping in, Nick gets to play a very casual mirror match. Tell us about the Votan mirror, Nick. What's
Yeah. You want me to go through his list? Yeah. Okay. Cool. So yeah, my opponent was Chris Pina. He is a buddy of ours from up in Olympia. He's been getting into Votan. He got into them a bit last year, and he's getting back into them as they've kind of made a revival. So he's got so his like core of his list is 30 Hearthguard, 10 Volkite, 20 Plasma. This is another build that we kind of theoretically thought would be pretty good, just because it's a big stat check build. And just a lot of people like can't maybe kill all of it. He has only 2 Sagittars. He did tell me at the start of the game that he's like, I would run more. I just don't have them right now. They're on their way. So that's kind of what he's got. He's got them with missiles. He's got 2 champs. One has Appraising Glare. He's got a Call with Grim Demeanor. Those are going to join the Hearthguard. And then he's got 6-man and 3-man Thunderkin. In the 6-man Thunderkin, he's got the Iron Master. That's the guy with all the little robots that gives the unit +1 to hit. And then he's got 3 squads of 3 bikes. So it's got like some fast trash and then a big brick of stuff. Oh, and then a squad of 10 Hearthkin. And that's pretty much it. If we want to go to the next slide real quick. So yeah, this game, trying to remember, I opted to go fixed. I was debating whether cleanse would be good or not. As you can see here from the board, if you are watching or if you're listening, I thought that maybe I would need like as many activations as possible to kill him. But I kind of figured like, well, the Hearthguard are going to be slower, and I can kind of like just play keep away with them. And when they ever do commit to the middle of the field, I can like pounce on them. Is the idea, because a lot of his power is like he's a lot less stuff than me, and I have more transports than him, so he's kind of activation locked in the game. He opted to go tactical because he doesn't have enough trash to really do fixed. So basically, this game was me kind of playing very... he put 20 Hearthguard in the sky, which I think was a bit of a mistake. I think he needed like 20 on the board and 10 in the sky. Because he didn't really have enough after I went first, and I like just blew up like a Sagittar and killed like a squad of bikes, and just stayed outside of the Hearthguard's threat range, so the guys that were on the board couldn't do anything. Turn 2, I decided to keep the pressure up and drop a squad of Hearthguard into his backfield because he was like running out of screens. He didn't have enough to like fully screen everything out. And so they like landed in, started killing some stuff in the backfield, landed a charge, which then forced him to commit back there. And basically the whole game was me keeping the fight on his side of the board. And eventually, because he has 30 Hearthguard on his side of the board, he clears his way out, but then they're greeted by like the 6 Thunderkin, 10 more Hearthguard I have, like 4 cars that he hasn't killed yet. And I just like cut things to pieces as they slowly advance up, and he's not really able to get any board control back after that. So yeah, I ended up winning this game 98-59. This was just kind of one of those where it's like, well, I couldn't really table his list. It was very easy to kind of like measure the threat range of the Hearthguard. Like that's a weakness of them. They only move 5, right? They only charge 12. They have no like movement speed buffs. They have no shenanigans or anything like that. They're a very tanky unit to like some profiles. But if you can, outrange them or only feed them like 1 unit a turn, they're not going to do a lot. So that was kind of the trash or the versus the giant ball of death.
Yeah, makes sense. How do you think you approach the mirror match more generally? Like maybe if the list disparity weren't quite as big, what advice would you have to any other Votan players trying to figure out how to navigate the mirror?
Yeah. If like he had like a carbon copy of my list or something similar.
Yeah, let's say point for point. Yeah, what would you want to do?
It's pretty weird. I think in general, like playing against Votan, you want to demech them as fast as possible. And you also want to remove their mission play units. Because whether they're playing fixed or tactical, those bikes are some of the best mission play units. Like they flit around the edges of the board, zipping in and out. They threaten homers, they threaten signals, like all the weird ones that get behind the field or like engage, they like threaten all that. So what I did in this game was like just target his bikes with the initial tokens and just kill them as soon as possible. And same thing with the 2 Sagittars he had. I was like, I'm just going to kill this stuff. Targeting the Hearthguard sounds smart, but in my opinion, you probably don't need to worry about that because they usually drop down and kill things. So they get tokens usually. It's not usually the bikes or the Sagittars finishing off a whole unit. So I think it's that. I think it's like use the fact that you guys both have a lot of activations and try to remove their activations as fast as possible. And you do that by removing their fast mission play units. So yeah, I think if you go first and they have shit in the open, you go token all your fast shit in the open and then push forward and kill it. So
very cool. All right. Meanwhile, Lucas over here is running into what were supposed to be the big bads of the balance patch, but maybe not so much. Tell us about your game at a Necron, Lucas.
Yeah, I played against Thomas round 1. He was pretty new. He said that this was his first GT, so well done to him for coming out and showing up with the Necrons and doing pretty well. His list is kind of a destroyer-heavy take on a 40 warrior Necron list, but with no Catan. So he's got a Chronomancer, he's got a Locust Lord, he's got 2 Foot Lords, one with the Veil of Darkness, he's got an Overlord with the Sempiternal Weave, he's got 2 Technomancers, one with the Canoptek Control Node for +1 hit for Canoptek, 2 squads of 20 Warriors, 2 Doomstalkers, 1 Reanimator, 2 squads of 3 Scarabs, 3 Heavy Destroyers, 3 Heavy Destroyers with a Mythic. So, a squad of 3 with the anti-tank gun, a squad of 3 with the anti-infantry gun, 10 Lich Guard with Sword and Board, and then 3 Tomb Blades. So, decent amount of trash, a little Firing Castle with the 2 Doomstalkers, and then the 3 big blobs of supposedly tough dudes. Unfortunately, CSM are one of the armies that can just go, I don't really care how tough your blobs are, I'm just going to power through them with the number of bullets I have. So, we got off to a relatively slow start, where he just started pushing up the field against me. I started raking in some points because I went second, getting kill and kill more, just picking up trash units to try to get that. And then he went for a super aggressive Veil of Darkness and charge play that ended up working. And then we had one of the classic, oh wait, Necrons don't do any damage moments when his Lich Guard killed half an Obliterator in combat. And then I just 1 CP fell back and shot and wiped out a squad of warriors, both Doomstalkers and most of the Lich Guard brick in one turn. And then from there it was just kind of rough for him to exist on the board, as all of my firepower was still alive and he was half dead. So I just took over the game from there. So we got some points for holding and hold more toward the middle of the game, but just not a whole lot he could do in the face of such overwhelming damage. My list has some interesting decisions it can do pre-game of what it wants to outflank Shalast Deep Strike, since there's only 5 real units in the list, and they're all pretty small footprint. It kind of matters what you decide to Deep Strike and what not to Deep Strike, which throughout the course of my games there's definitely times when what I decided to put in Deep Strike, in reserves, won or lost me the game. And this was definitely one game where I wanted just all guns on the table blazing away as much as possible. I did have 1 squad of Obliterators and Deep Strike that just came in and tried to take his backfield because he had to use his screens to try to keep me off the objectives for a while. He didn't really have much for his backfield to prevent me from landing in there. So on turn 2 I just dropped the Obliterators in, destroyed the 2 Doomstalkers with them, and then just walked onto his home field next turn. So very quickly just turned into a point spiral from there.
Makes sense. Good round for the boys. Heading into round 2. Round 2 we're playing Hammer and Anvil. Vital ground. So we're talking pull the center objective. Home fields are worth 2. Midfields are worth 5. Opponents' home fields are worth 7?
6. But yeah.
6. Okay. Never comes up for me. 6. Sounds good. Let's see what y'all can do with this. Nick is getting paired. Oh, I'm not having other people read lists, obviously. Lucas, walk us through this Orc list that Nick got to pair into round 2. Give us your thoughts on it.
Sure. So this is a very cool take on a Gargantuan Squiggoth Orc list, which is a fun archetype that takes a lot of the trash out of an Orc list and just focuses it all on one gigantic dude. Just real quick before I get into the list composition, basically the gist of the Squiggoth is it's a big ass 30 wound T13 Orc thing. It has a transport capacity. It's open topped, and it's T13 and has access to -1 to wound. So if you have the wrong offensive profiles into that, you can just bounce off it on repeat, which is pretty funny.
There's no open topped anymore. How much firing deck does it have, though?
It's okay, whatever, dude. It has a firing deck. My apologies. You
How
have to
much?
measure
Of
diagonally
what
from
number?
You have to measure diagonally from the howdah, though.
That's incorrect. What's the firing deck here?
You're incorrect.
That's also incorrect. I'm correct about this. For those of y'all curious in chat, the Gargantuan Squiggoth has the firing deck 20 ability.
And it has a funny howdah ability too, where it can like the guys inside can shoot, or can shoot out of combat or something.
Yeah, while it's in engagement range, they can like shoot out, and they don't take a -1 to hit for something or whatever. I don't know.
For the monster being locked in combat, yeah.
Yeah. So this orc list is led by Badruk and Mozrog. It then has 2 beast bosses, a war boss, and a weird boy. So considering he's got a Gargantuan Squiggoth, he also has just a ton of characters. He's got 2 squads of 10 Snagga Boys, 10 Gretchen, 10 Flash Kits, 10 Claw Knobs, 2 squads of 5 Storm Boys with claws, and 3 trucks with balls.
What do you think of this list, Lucas?
I mean, it's certainly a super Chad list, but its footprint is like 3 trucks and 1 big ass squig, and that's like all it really does. So, I mean, it's certainly a super Chad, and it'll take some people off guard, but I question
the squig is funny, dude.
Competitive viability. It is certainly funny.
-1 to wound is a hell of a drug.
What is the squig's output? Do you remember his attacks?
It's got like 6 attacks at 20 -4, 12, or like 16 -4, 12, and then it has like a bunch of 9 -2, 3 sweeps.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure one of those profiles has a lance.
Yes, so it has 6 attacks on 3s at 14, 3, 12 with lance. Or it has 18 attacks on 3s at 9, 2, 3.
Squid!
Since it's an orcs unit, it has 6s explode in melee, and you could, 1 CP, 5s explode?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, this thing is basically just asking you the question of, hey, can your army efficiently kill a T13 -1 to wound, 30 wound, 3 up armor, always in cover model?
Or can you manage to ignore that thing for an entire game?
Oh, can you blow up the rest of the army? Yeah, you just hope your opponent doesn't have like lethal hits, or rerolls to wound, or mortal wounds, or proceed down the litany of things that will still kill this guy.
Absolutely anything that can move block in any capacity.
If your opponent is bringing only las cannons, they will mold, and you will be super happy. Let's put it that way.
Let me say it. This list is here to punish. Was the new Marine book was not used at this event? Was it?
It came out the morning of the event, so no.
Gotcha. Okay. This list, if you have a friend who plays Marines and just got the new Marine book and is mauling about the oath change, play this list into them. It'll be really, really funny when they can no longer reroll the wound into your T13 dude and fire last cannons at it. That's what this list is for.
I just hope they don't have Iron Storm, because that detachment has an aura of lethal hits. But anyway, proceed.
Yeah. This guy that I played against, his list, I'm trying to remember, Tauren. There we go. Tauren was a awesome opponent. If you are watching, or if you're listening, I recommend that you go and watch at least this segment, because I have a picture of his army on display, and his army looks amazing. Tauren ended up winning best sport at the event, so everyone had a great time playing him. I mean, we just talked about a Gargantuan Squiggoth for 5 minutes, so this thing puts a smile on your face. It's this giant Forge World model. It's hilarious. This game is interesting. This game is really interesting because, again, right, you only get the 2 points for holding your home field, 5 for each midfield, and then 6 for your opponents. But I'm playing into orcs. They're a pressure army. They're going to knock me off objectives. That's what they do. So I have to kill them, and I have to kill them fast, or I'm not getting any primary this game. Luckily, I have a lot of experience playing against orcs, thanks to Lucas. So I kind of know a bit about the waves of pressure and target priority into them. Tokens in this game were pretty funny. I put tokens on the Gargantuan Squig because I'm I need to kill that thing, I think. I put tokens on Mozrog, kind of similar thinking. Was he's probably not going to kill a lot, but he's going to be really freaking tanky. And then I put tokens on the Beast Snagga Squads. Not the trucks, because I figured that the Beast Snagga Squads were just going to get out and the trucks weren't going to be super important. If like a truck's in the open, it's probably going to die to a Sagittar anyways. He went first. He basically just secondaries. He took tactical. I waffled between tactical or not. But this seemed like a pretty easy homers mission because I'm like, he's going to have a hard time screening his backfield probably. And also it's like, I want to go to the middle because of how the terrain was. I want to go to the middle to move block him. It's like sending a unit there every turn to move block and also homers seems smart. And assassinate seemed like a good one because he had so many characters. So I ended up going fixed, assassinate homers. He kind of stages. I basically just shoot the hell out of the Swigeth turn 1. I do like 12 damage to it because the beams, get a little lucky here and there. The beams are very funny. I have 1 beam. I get like 2 through and do like 10 damage to him, and then the next one gets 5 hits on 2 dice, 5 wounds, and then he makes like 4 of the saves, and I do like a damage, and I'm like, all right, the beam. So turn 1, he's very smart. He doesn't like put his trucks in a visible way. The only thing I can really see is the Squigget, so I just get my free damage into that. And then next turn he calls the wall, and he slams in with his Beast Nagas, deletes my 2 Sagittars that are on each of the midfield objectives. And then he also gets the knobs. He has the knobs inside of the Squigeth, by the way. He has the flash gets inside of a truck. So he gets the knobs out of Squigeth, and he kills another Sagittar, which I wasn't really expecting him to do. So it's pretty good. So my clapback, I have 2 Sagittars, 6 Thunderkin. I have Ingress, a squad of Hearthguard. I Deep Strike, a squad of Hearthguard. And I have the 2 squads of 3 bikes, and then like Uthar and a few Hearthkin. And pretty much the entire army just gets out and starts blasting. And I think I clear the Beast Naga squad with the Beast Boss. I killed another one with the Beast Boss. I killed the Knob squad with the War Boss. Uthar finishes off the Gargantuan Squigeth in melee with his Dev Wounds. Very funny.
Let's go!
So pretty much all he's got left at that point is he's got Wave 2, which is Flash Gits in a truck, and Mozrog with some Storm Boys. So Wave 2 comes in, the Flash Gits do their thing, but eventually the Hearthguard, really good in a Flash Gits because they're only AP 1, so the Hearthguard able to just avoid armor, and they're just taking a bunch of 2-ups. So I eventually managed to claw my way back, and as you can see on like turn 5, I get 7 on primary, and I get 12. Turn 4 I get 7, and turn 5 I get 12. The end of game bonus is really good on this mission because it's like really hard to get primary early if you're playing into pressure. Ended up getting 17 on homers. So I think the final score was 70-43, and I max assassinate because like everything died except for I think the Gretchen is home field. So,
what character did you kill on turn 1?
He drew Secure No Man's Land turn 1, and he teleported the Weird Boy over to one of the objectives nearby me.
Holy shit! Okay.
Oh no, he did it on the other side of the objective to also get engage.
That's a pretty good use of a character.
Yeah. So he was like,
you're getting
this guy's
max
gonna get me.
no matter what. Yeah.
This guy's gonna get me 5 points, and here you go. You get assassinated.
Let's go.
And also, like, you have to shoot this now instead of shooting the Squigeth if you want your assassinate. So I think he like sucked up a Sagittarius shooting, which was cool.
Hell yeah! Rory says this is one of Torin's signature moves. Love to see it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
He did tell me, he looked at me and he's like, I might roll a 1. He's like, my first game, I roll a 1 and this guy instantly blew up. And then he didn't roll.
Bummer.
He was like,
It's the Weird Boy classic.
It was
Very
good.
cool.
It was a good game. Very good.
All right. Sweet. Well, good stuff. Let's see if Lucas gets to play into something nearly as cool, and he gets to play into Tau. That's lame. I play Tau. I'll read you this list. We got Farsight and Shadow Sun. Love to see the combo. And the Cold Star Commander with Exemplar the Kalyan. We got 2 broadsides and a solo broadside with rail rifles and plasma guns. 6 crisis suits with shields and plasma rifles. 6 crisis suits with shields and fusion blasters. 2 ghost keels with fusion, both colliders and blasters, I imagine. We got a pair of Piranha. We got a squad of 3 stealth suits and only 2 Tetras. Is that 1 squad of 2 or 2 squads of 2? 1 squad of 2. Wow, really toning down the Tetras here. This Farsight Shadow Sun Cold Star combo as your command characters is a lot of fun. I've played around with it. It's a really good time. The Fusion Blaster Crisis Suit squad is really cool because they don't kill themselves. They just kill other things slightly less efficiently. But obviously, anti-tank is really necessary in this world. So having them and the Ghost Keels all loaded up on Fusion can do a lot. Farsight gives that unit +1 to wound as well, so they actually can kill tanks. It's a nice little combo. But I am concerned by the lack of Tetras a lot. Like, when you build a Tau list, it should probably auto-populate with 6 Tetras. I think you could probably cut the 2-man broadside for that, personally. But very cool list. Excited to see how it plays out. How's it doing to CSM, Lucas?
Yeah, this was a really fun game with Jeff. My second time actually playing as CSM at a Tau. The first time was on the Wargames live stream at Charity Hammer in the Teams event. If you guys haven't watched that, you should go check it out because it was a really fun game between myself and Mr. Donald Plummer. So, yeah, that was a really fun game, and so was this one. It was a super close one at the end of the day. This is a really interesting game where, we both have a couple of really key shooting units that each have their own advantages. He has the benefit of being able to strike and fade. I've got the benefit of Obliterators having indirect. He's got a bunch of lone ops and strike and fade. I've got lots of indirect and also lone op stratagem for Nurgle stuff. So it's kind of like a fun tap dance of like trying to get our shooting units to get the right angles and stuff like that. This was one game where I definitely decided to go with fixed. I feel like you should always have the default of fixed against Tau because of Bring It Down. It's basically impossible to not score 20 points on it. So, between that and pretty much a floor of 15 on homers for basically any army with any amount of trash in it, you're going to have to, give me a good argument to say that tactical is better than a guaranteed 35 against Tau when we don't really want to push into them and go all over the board because they'll just kill you if you do that. So yeah, as you can see by the primary scores in this game, it was very slow and grindy. Very slow and grindy. We didn't really push into each other very much at all. Like, he would throw a little unit up the screen, or a unit or two, and maybe a ghost kill because they have lone op. I would just shoot them with indirect with the obliterators to force out more screens. He would throw forward more screens. I would, shoot them with a Nurgle Forge Fiend on some tiny angle and lone op strat in response. It's very scary because Tau have great ability to like ingress a squad of crisis suits, and then that unit can run up super fast and blast. I think Jeff was perhaps a little bit too gung-ho with his ingress. He basically did it immediately on turn 2, and there wasn't much for him to do. I think he thought I was going to get super aggressive into him, when in reality I was just like trade against slowly whittling away his screens. And with only one squad of Tetras, all I need is like one opportunity to blast those guys with one concentrated like a volley of firepower. And, his ability to kill me goes down dramatically because there's such a force multiplier for Tau that without that one squad, he's kind of a bit behind in the damage race. I also got a very opportune chance to... This was one game where I reserved a lot of stuff. I put both of my undivided firepower units in reserve, and then on turn 2, I had a chance to like wombo combo down his crisis suits, and I actually overperformed a little bit. The obliterators went into them first and killed so many that the Forge Fiend could no longer see them. So the Forge Fiend just kind of like stood over there on a flank and didn't do anything. But suffering from success, I guess. I nuked his crisis team down to a single wounded plasma guy and the commander, which was amazing news. Killing 5 crisis suits with 4 obliterators is pretty lucky. And then from there, he was definitely on the back foot. He didn't really get his first set of secondary points until turn 2, so he was really behind on the secondary game, even though he ended up winning on primary because I went first and he had that gigantic swing at the end of the game for controlling my home field with the Chad Farsight squad. He was just way behind on secondaries and he couldn't really catch up. All it took was like one little push for me to get a couple extra primary points toward the end of the game, and then from there I squeaked out a narrow win. But it was really fun. I'm not very good at playing shooting armies, and I don't have a lot of experience with it. So trying to learn the like cat and mouse game of like a shooting v shooting matchup, especially with like some Tau have some advantage and disadvantages in this matchup. CSM have some advantages and disadvantages. Learning to like navigate that little puzzle was really fun. And I had a blast. Jeff was a great opponent as well. Very skilled. I could tell he knew what he was doing. But just probably a little bit too aggressive on turn 2 with his crisis suits. That allowed me to really just rest control on turn 3 and lock him out of the game.
Very cool. Sounds super dynamic and like a really good matchup. Glad to hear it was a good time. Cool. So both the boys finishing up 2-0 after round 2. Moving on into round 3, where we're playing Search and Destroy. That's quarters. We are playing Supply Drop, which is the Alpha and the Omega. The objective is disappearing on turns 4 and turns 5. And looks like just chilling around all day. Starting up with Nick is going into Dark Angels. Lucas, you want to break down this Dark Angel list for us?
Sure. We've got of note, this this tournament was played the morning of the drop of the Marine Codex, so we were playing with the old Marine rules, where basically you're playing Gladius or bust. So this is a Dark Angels Gladius list. He's got a biology professor with the Bolter discipline. I love that that's what we call this guy and the Death Guard guy, by the way. They're all just biology professors if they have anything to do with,
Bro, that is not what we call this guy.
What?
This
What do you
man
mean?
is the Harmacist.
This man is a biology professor, and you love it.
I've
and you
never
know it.
heard anyone call him the Harmacist, dude.
You've never heard anyone say Harmacist? I hear this all the time.
No.
It is my favorite word.
No, I
in
hear people
40K.
call this guy the biology professor, and it annoys me because that's the Death Guard guy.
Yeah, no.
They're
I'll
both
call him the
biology
Harmacist.
professors.
That's cool.
Anyway, so we got a biology professor. We've got a chaplain in Terminator armor. We've got Lion L. Johnson. That Harmacist.
Trimble, Harmacist. That
Nice.
sounds like
Love to
something
see
you
it.
don't want to be yelling.
That sounds like a Steve word. We've got a Primaris company champ. What the
Oh, I'll tell you
Okay.
what this does, dude.
We've got 6 aggressors. We got a ballistic dread. This is the most eclectic list ever.
Yes.
We got 5 Deathwing Knights. We've got 5 Devastators with 2 Grav and 2 Las Cannons. We've got 3 Inceptors with 2 squads of 3 Inceptors with plasma guns, 2 squads of 5 Infiltrators, and a Land Raider Redeemer. Okay, finally, return to normalcy. Jesus Christ.
All right. Yeah. So this was played against Travis, who was, I think, newer to the tournament scene. Like his army had just been freshly painted. He was very excited to be playing games and meet everyone. He was a very enthusiastic player, very nice. He loved the Lion. At the start of the game, I'm like, oh, Lion, very cool. And he's like, yeah, I know that this guy's not an optimal choice, but I love this guy. And I got this model. And he's like, and I'll probably get rid of him once I play a few more games. But for now, you face the Lion. And he called him his full name every time. I'm like, I don't even know this guy's full name. Lord of the, First Legion, yada, yada, first of his name. This guy loved the Lion. So this one was a little bit sketchy just because it is a pressure Marines list. Even though there's a bunch of weird eclectic stuff in there, right? Random, Devastators and a random Ballistas and that sort of thing. It's still got 5 Deathwing Knights, and it's still got the Lion, who is pretty tanky. He's 3-up invuln, T9, 10 wounds. He can pick at the start of the battle round a 4-up Field Against Mortals aura, which is usually your counter to dealing with a 3-up invuln. If you try to charge him, he fights first with a shitload of sweeps that will decimate Hearthguard. So I can't charge him, unfortunately, really. And he's -1 to wound at all times. So if this guy goes first, I mentioned what layout we're playing on. We're playing on layout 1. And for those who don't know, layout 1 is basically the box of death. It's the one where all the terrain surrounds the middle, and there's these 2 very tiny shooting lines into the middle, which is probably my worst terrain layout into a pressure matchup on this mission. Because this is the one where you start very close, and it's the one where, the objectives go away. So primary is very hard. And unfortunately for me too, the first objective going away is my safe objective in the top left. Oh, bummer. Luckily for me though, the one objective at the end of the game is the one in the middle. So we're deploying. He's not really going to be able to hit me early turn 1. I pick tactical because he doesn't give anything up. And with the infiltrators, it's actually going to be pretty hard to homers into his backfield because all he has to do is put those infiltrators behind walls. And I'm probably not getting to them over the course of the game because I'm going to be dealing with this party bus full of aggressors and a Land Raider in my face and 5 Deathwing Knights in the line to back it up. He goes first, which means for me, I'm okay, I have end of turn. I can get a 15 at the end of the game, provided I control the middle at the end of the game, which is that's the name of the game on this mission, is get that 15 at the end or deny your opponent from getting the 15. That's usually, in my experience, how this game is won. Or you just shut people out of primary. Those are the 2 things. He sprints the Lion instantly to the middle. I believe. No, turn 1, we don't do anything. Turn 2, he gets what is it, area denial, and then he sprints the line instantly to the middle. And this is where that funny little company champion comes in. So the line is a lone operative as long as he's within 3 inches of a friendly Dark Angels infantry unit or like Space Marines infantry unit. So like the Land Raider can't lone up for the line, but the company champion can. So he just runs this guy into the middle with the line, and I'm like, so is that guy lone up? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay. He's just this like 4-wound guy with a storm shield that you got to kill before you can start shooting the line. So I pretty much point everything at those guys, and I kill them. But then the Land Raider rolls up, and the aggressors get out, and they one-shot my Hearthguard that killed the lion. Bummer. And then my other Hearthguard come in and one-shot the aggressors. And I'm like, all right, cool. I think this is pretty much what we have. We've unfortunately been getting a little bit boned on secondaries. Like turn 1, we draw behind, and I'm like, well, that's not happening. Turn 2, we draw tempting target, and he's like, yep, it's my safe one that's behind 5 Deathwing Knights and a Land Raider. And I'm like, yeah, that's not happening. And then what is it? Turn 4, I get capture enemy outpost and engage on all fronts. And I'm like, I can't engage because your infiltrators are blocking my bikes from coming in, and I can't capture your outpost because your infiltrators are blocking me. And I've been dealing with this wave of shit in my face. So yeah, I end up winning the game 71-56. But it really just kind of came down to me being like, all right, I'm not getting like great secondaries this game, but as long as I can control that objective in the middle at the end of the game, I'm going to beat them on primary. And that's all we need to do. And that's it. Good game to Travis.
Very cool. Sweet. Sounds like a really good time.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Nice. Sweet.
Oh, I just dropped my snow applier on the floor. Lovely.
Oh, dude, hobby mishap.
Long series of first of your long and storied saga against Marines at this event, dude. I'm excited to hear.
Oh
about
yeah,
more
that's how I
power
only
armor
play
games
for the
tomorrow.
rest of the game. That's probably come. Yeah, I'm ready for Marine Winter, dude. It's coming. Do you want me to go over this Eldar list, or do you want to go over it, Tyler?
Do not harken back to that dark time, Nick. That is a time that should not be named.
It's coming, dude. It's the time of the year.
Tell us about
Sure,
Jorge's Eldar.
I can read about Jorge. Just to, suck that guy's dick for a second. I fucking love this guy. He's an absolute king. He takes names and does not care. This dude dropped out of Rosehammer while undefeated because he was like, I want to go spend time with my family. Love that attitude. We had a great game. We played at Turkey Wars last year, I think. And I think did he get you last year at Turkey Wars, Lucas? Because he played 2 of us, didn't he?
No, I played him with Chaos Knights and beat him.
Something like that.
I think.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Anyway, this guy's super cool.
Yes.
Yeah, he went 6-0 at Tacoma, lost to Trimble in the Shadow round. This guy's fantastic. Oh yeah, and then he dropped from Tacoma as well after going 6-0. It was like, yeah, it's good enough. Anyway, he's taken Eldar and he's taken Yannari. Or no, he's not playing Yannari. He's playing Yannari? I don't remember. Is this just regular Eldar?
It's regular
Is
Eldar.
Yannari a thing? I don't know. Anyway, he's playing Eldar. He's got an Outsark Way Leaper with Fate's Messenger. How original. He's got the Avatar of Cain. Let's go. He's got a Farseer on foot. 2 squads of 5 Rangers, a unit that I have not seen Eldar players take in a minute. 2 squads of 5 Fire Dragons. Fuegan, nowhere to be seen. Just taking Fire Dragons for the sake of Fire Dragons. 2x5 Banshees. 2x5 Shadow Specters. Wait, Banshees? What edition is this? It's crazy. 2 squads of 5 Specters. 2 D-Cannons, because you cannot nerf that unit out of existence, apparently. 2 Warwalkers with Bright Lances, and 3 squads of 5 Warp Spiders, the fastest gunslingers in the West. So this list is super MSU, tons of Aspect Warriors blitzing around, and then the Avatar of Cain as this massive anchor. No Wraith Guard, no Night Spinners, no Incarn. We're breaking all the rules of what we think Eldar are supposed to be. This is something completely different. Tell me all about it, Lucas. How did this game go?
It's a really fun game. This is kind of like 2 diametrically opposed lists, right? Like we've got my 5 big unkillable bricks of death versus his 20 slippery little rat units that just run all over and try to be annoying as their whole MO. So yeah, it was a super fun game. Every time I play Jorge, it's an amazing game. He's a great opponent, super skilled, and also just like a really nice guy. Fun to just like play games against him because he's like super chill, and we just like laughing and having fun the whole time, which is always like the best way to play the game. So yeah, I had an absolute blast with him. This was one game where I, would have taken fixed if I could, but just he doesn't give up a kill, and I don't really have the units to devote to doing secondary, so there's not really anything to take, because he's going to be able to block out my ability to do tactical, which is really why I'm like, I wish I could take fixed, but there's just nothing really to take that is good in any real capacity. So I ended up going tactical and kind of come into the game with the knowledge that he's going to beat me pretty badly on the tactical deck because we both do tactical. And, I just figure I'm going to have to win this game by basically blowing him up on turn 3 or turn 4, and then hopefully by the end of the game I can, lock down a primary win or something like that. It's going to be tough. I don't think I have the advantage coming into this game, but, maybe there's something to do with just, with blowing him up and then getting onto the objectives at the very end, and hopefully hoping to squeak out a narrow win like I did against Tau. So, unfortunately, Jorge goes first, which is not good for my, I need to get aggressive and kill his stuff plan. He, there's a couple things going for him in this matchup. He's got these D cannons, which are really irritating for me, because while they're only 24-inch range, every time they shoot, they, kill 1 or 2 obliterators. They could, between the two of them, they could do serious damage, if not kill a Forge Fiend. And they can also do some real damage to Abaddon and his bodyguard. So, I can only Nurgle strat in one place, and as soon as I do, he's going to redirect fire to the other unit and just blow it up. So, the Nurgle strat doesn't really do all that much here. He's also got lots of these little aspect warriors, each of which has, it is very good at its appropriate task, right? The Warp Spiders are super good at playing the mission. We all know that already, so are the Shadow Specters. So I don't need to espouse their virtues very much at all. But we also got these fire dragons, which, when they put their minds to it, they can absolutely kill, a squad of obliterators in one go or do serious damage to them. They really threaten the Forge Fiends as well. They're really fast. They have assault guns, and with Fate Dice, they can auto advance 6, so they can zoom right up into Melter range right away and just blast whatever they need to, which is terrifying. And then the Banshees are the other really interesting take that I think a lot of people haven't explored enough. They're 80 or 85 points with, again, auto advances. They advance in charge. I'm pretty sure they fall back in charge. They fight first. Their sergeant has 4 attacks at 5-2-2, and all the other ladies have 4 attacks at 4-3-1 or something like that. They're very good at killing a squad of Marines with the Eldar reroll and fight dice if needed. They can just kind of power through a squad of Marines, which is exactly what he used them for in this game. Basically little seek and destroy missiles to go hunt down my Warp Talons, because the Warp Talons really want to get a jump on enemy units and then force your opponent to deal with them instead of the firepower units. So if you can just get the jump on them in the first place, it's really good. So Jorge did a good job of that. The Banshees basically just turned into little missiles that found my Warp Talons and killed them. Considering the Banshees move 14 inches and then charge with Fate Dice, it's very hard to avoid that while trying to stay in the game. The disappearing objectives in this mission, his disappeared on turn 4, and then mine disappeared on turn 5, and the middle stayed until the end. So, all things considered, there was some hope for me in terms of just trying to score some primary, because that's a pretty favorable disappearing order, all things considered. And then going second, I also figured, if I'm around at the end of the game, that 15 is pretty much guaranteed. I did end up scoring that 15, so we were pretty much parity on primary, that is. But, like I said, I was at a significant secondary disadvantage, and with the Warp Spiders just getting into my back lines, going super fast, they killed all my Cultists and Nurglings. By the end of turn 2, I had 3 Nurglings and 5 Cultists left. That's all of my trash that I had, and then all the rest of it was big bricks that was lumbering around. So whenever I drew things like Teleport Homer, Engage, you can see I missed out on both of those on turn 3 and 4, which is really not good. Or I guess it's turn 3 and 5, but either way, just didn't have enough units to do all those things. So ended up filling behind pretty hard on secondary points, and just ended up losing from there. But it was a really fun game. There was definitely a moment like turn 3 where we both looked at each other and he's like, well, I bet I need to like play the points hard now because your turn 2 blasted like 25 aspect warriors and both my warwalkers to death, which was like super scary. So I definitely like killed probably more of his army than anyone else did at the tournament, but like that's not good enough to win sometimes. The points trump all. So yeah, it was a super fun game, and I hope I get to play against Jorge some more because he is an absolute blast to play against.
That's so cool to hear. I don't feel like we hear about people doing this enough. That like, if you're gonna play the points game, what you kill is a big part of that, right? Those resources could take chunks out of Terminators. They could take chunks out of Obliterators, but by allocating it to the Warp Talons as the number one on target, Jorge not only like he's not only trying to beat you in the race to 100, he's also trying to trip you on the way there. So while he's getting tabled and while he's acting up the score, he's preventing you from getting your points, even if it means he's getting killed a little bit faster. Really cool to see that working out for him. As that's not an easy strategy to pull off, but it's brutally effective when it's employed in the right way. Very cool stuff.
Yeah, he came into the game like super nervous. He's like, CSM, like the boogeyman of the meta. I'm gonna get shit on, and I'm like, I don't know, dude. Like, let's just play and have fun, and see what happens. And on turn 2, we both kind of looked at each other, and he's like, I'm gonna run at you, and then he just takes all of his banshees, fire dragons, and like 5 of his. By the way, rangers. Let me finish this point. He takes like 25 or 30 of his toughness 3 bodies and just sprints them at me. And I'm like, well, crap. I have like one little corner of the board to arrive from Deep Strike in. Like, this is not good at all. And that was the turn my Nurgle Obliterators went and killed like 15 Aspect Warriors, which was pretty sick. But you know, they did that while waddling 4 inches. So like they didn't get anywhere close to the middle of the table while doing that. So primary was not great for me from there. So yeah, well done to him. Like it takes a lot of knowledge to really realize that running your fragile Eldar army directly at the opponent is the right thing to do, because he just like locked me down from getting any points from there. So well done. Rangers, going back to that point, are a super obnoxious unit. They're only OC1, but they scurry away ability. So when you end up moving the 9 of them, they get to move D6, and they're also like 5 up invulnerable against shooting, and they're stealth. So. And they have, like, I'm pretty sure they're infiltrators, and I don't think they have scout, but just, like, a lot of obnoxious rules. And for a very cheap price point, I think they're pretty good. I mean, the only reason I don't think we see them more is because Warp Spiders and Shadow Specters are just so much better for the points. They basically do the same thing, but have double or quadruple the movement, respectively. So, but yeah, cool little list innovation from Jorge there.
Yeah, I mean, when you've already got 3 squads of Talons and 2 squads of Spectres, like, it can only take so much, you know?
Yep.
Very cool. Sweet. That sounds like an awesome round 3. Nick, let's see what you're going up against. Oh, wait, no. Did we already do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I rambled for a while, my bad.
Cool. No worries. Sweet.
Yeah, shut up, Lucas. I'm kidding.
All
I
right.
love being Thompson.
So we're going into day 2. Nick is undefeated. Lucas has taken his first L. We're playing Dawn of War, Scorched Earth, and ostensibly Chilling Reign.
Yes.
You know what, you love it. Let's hear all about it. Nick is playing into Black Templars. Is this Maximus himself?
This is our buddy Max Schwartzer.
Let's go. Lucas, you haven't talked enough. Tell us about the chattest list in all the land.
So this is Max's Black Templars list. If you want to read some A+ tier lore, go to the Turkey Wars, Pecking Order Turkey Wars event, and read his Black Templars lore. It's fantastic. I certainly enjoyed scrolling through like whole pages of it, finding this list this morning. So we've got Helbrecht, we've got Grimaldus, we've got Primaris Apothecary with Tannhauser's Boner, we've got 6 squads of 5 Crusaders with a Melta, Multi-Melta, and Inferno Pistol. We've got 10 Primaris Crusaders with no weapons, even though weapons are available to them. Well done, Max. We've got 3 Rhinos, we've got a Land Raider Redeemer, 10 Sword Brethren with 2 Hammers and 2 Double Claws, and 2 Redemptors with Plasma. So, in case you haven't seen the Crusaders, they are 13 points a model for a Space Marine, and then that comes with more special weapons than other tactical Marine equivalents get for some ungodly reason. So, definitely one of the most hilarious troops in the game at the moment. How'd this game go, Nick?
All right. So this list is awesome. I definitely want to talk about this list, and I mean, we'll probably do like a little thing at the end. I think that these last two lists that I played, there's very interesting variations that we might be seeing come out of the new Marine book. So I think it'd be cool to discuss that. So we'll kind of get into that later. So this mission is a little bit, what's the word? Controversial. Scorched Earth, Dawn of War. I believe Goonhammer's been tracking like the go first win rate stats for missions, and this one, at least initially, was very high. I think on their second round, it's still one of the higher ones. It's like up in the upper 50s. It's just kind of an issue, I think, with Dawn of War in general. But this is a mission where the primary is very important because you can only get 10 a turn, outside of like the action, of course. 5 for holding each objective. So if you can like keep your home field, you get 5 a turn. But if you ever manage to like get a midfield, which is pretty hard because like on most of the layouts, most of the midfield objectives are out in the open. So it's very hard into shooting. Or if you're playing into something like Templars, which are a very tanky, high pressure melee list with like good objective control, it can be really hard to wrest those objectives back from them, which is what I was scared about happening if Max went first. Another thing, but yeah, with this mission too is like when you go first, especially and are able to advance onto the objectives and like lock down a flank, it's really easy to burn an objective going first. It's a lot harder going second because of the whole burning the objective. You can't start it on turn 5. Like the objectives are only burned at the start of your next command phase, provided you are still, within range and controlling it. So that can be very hard to come back from if your opponent goes first and or even if you go second, manage to burn it. So that was pretty much nightmare scenario for me. Was like I played into this list. Max and I played on supply drop. We played on basically the last round as a practice game. Supply drop, Crucible, not Crucible, Search and Destroy, and Layout 1. So this one, it's like, at least I have the shooting advantage into Max, theoretically. Although Redemptors are really good at killing Hearthguard, they're really good at killing bikes. And the Land Raider is really good at killing pretty much anything on my list because it just has a obscene amount of flamers. And Overwatch on that thing is a nightmare. If you haven't been hit by the Overwatch of a Land Raider Redeemer, it's some stupid shit. So Max does end up going first. He doesn't think it's like super great, and I am terrified because I'm like, I am gonna have to hit him so hard, like as fast as possible, so I don't just like get primary locked. I can't take fix in this game because he doesn't give up anything bring it down wise. Like he gives up like 15 or 16, and that's killing like all the Rhinos and the Land Raider and both of the Redemptors when most of the time I'm going to be dealing with the Sword Bros in my face. It's not happening. He doesn't give up an Assassinate either. He's 3 characters. So it's like take Cleanse on the mission where I go to the middle and die, right? Or Homers, and that's just wasting activations that I need to be shooting. I need to like table Max in like 3 turns or 4 turns, or like deal a devastating blow as fast as possible in order to win this game. So he ends up going to the middle with the Land Raider. I tokened that, so I just shoot as much as I can into it with AOC and Smoke, because Smoke gives him light cover and -1 to hit. It's really hard to hurt that thing, so it ends up taking an okay amount of damage. I do this play where I have a Sagittar go up to it. He opted to Oaths my Thunderkin, which was smart because they were behind a wall that were basically going to walk out and blast his Redeemer if the Redeemer advanced to the middle, but he Oaths them, so if I walk them out into the open, he gets to just Overwatch me and basically kill like most of the squad. And I'm like, well, that doesn't seem great. So I like moved everything else out first, knowing he wouldn't Overwatch them and would save Overwatch for the Thunderkin. And then I'm like, well, I'm not going to move the Thunderkin. That's fine. Like they'll come out next turn, right? And like shoot the Sword Bros or shoot the Land Raider when it's locked in combat and it can't, big guns never tire. It can't shoot out of combat with Overwatch. So I go to charge the Redeemer with a Sagittar, and Max is like, you know what? Full health Sagittar? Sure. I'll Overwatch it. And I'm like, dude, what are we doing? Like, you were hitting on 6s with no rerolls with like your Meltas, and like wounding on 5s with no rerolls with your Flamers.
That's some classic Max shit.
Sounds good. Yeah, this is some classic shit. He did this to me at last Turkey Wars, where he was like, I'm like, all right, if you have 3 CP, you have this very good, cool combo. And he's like, cool, I'll spend 1 of my 3 CP to Overwatch your Scorpec and cover. And I'm like, and then he like killed 2. So I'm like, all right, this Editor is about to die, maybe? And so he goes to roll the flamers, and he goes, actually, wait, I want to roll the Melta first. I'm like, all right, sure. Rolls a 1 and a 6. So the 6 hits. Okay, cool. Well, you're wounding on a 5 with no reroll. Okay. 5. All right. Well, I don't get a save. It's a Melta, though. How much damage does it do? Does, like, max damage. My Sagittar's on, like, 2 health or whatever. I'm like, okay. And then he rolls his flamers, and he rolls, like, 17 shots. Like, 1 under the maximum amount of flamer shots. So my Sagittar just dies. And I'm like, all right. I guess we're not using the Sagittar to, like, combine with Uthar's squad to pin the Sword Bros in. So now I have to charge Uthar's squad in and, like, wrap them this way. But your Sword Bros are still going to be able to get out this side and come charge my backfield. Bummer. So I managed to at least remove some of the distance of the Sword Bros, which does help because next turn he goes for a 7-inch level charge. Fails it, my heart. I do like an Ingress counterpunch with Hearthguard into a Redemptor and some Crusaders that have made their way into my backfield. At this point, I'm trying really hard to deny like 10s, just so I'm not falling behind on primary. We're keeping pretty even. But my Hearthguard walking in failed to kill like a, 3 health Redemptor in melee. I'm like, all right, dude, take... I use the 1 CP strat for plus, additional AP per token or whatever. And I'm like, all right, dude, take... 3 6-ups, and he makes all 3 of them. And I'm like, cool. Take another 2 6-ups, and he makes 1 of them. And I'm like, cool. And I'm like, take 3 damage. All right, I'll CP reroll that. Take 3 damage. Like, it was 4 damage. -1 goes to 3. And his Redemptor goes, okay, cool. Rolls Feel No Pains. Makes 2 6-up Feel No Pains. Takes 1 damage. And I'm like, cool. I guess my Hearthguard don't kill them. Anyways, here's the Crusaders. Oh, they didn't kill them either, because I'm hitting on 3s, and I missed with over half my hits. Okay, cool. This is a bummer. This is not the counterpunch you want to do. At this point, it's just I did my counterpunch whiff super hard. I do a good amount of damage into the Sword Bros, but like the wave of pressure just keeps coming. I'm not able to stop 10s anymore. He's just starting to get 10s. He ends up burning an objective because I'm not able to stop him from controlling it. And I kill some stuff. It's cool. The Sword Bros die. The Redemptor in my backfield eventually dies. Some Rhinos and Crusaders die. But yeah, the wave of tanky OC2 guys that I am not that efficient at shooting because they don't have tokens is never ending. And I end up going down, I think, 72 to 40 something. I don't know. I can't go to the next slide. So 71-42. Yep. That was it.
Very cool. Hell yeah. Big props to our boy Max here for doing usual Max shit. This was Lucas, comment on the Max situation.
Like
both parts of it. First the happy part, then the oopsie part.
Yeah, so Max, this was Max's last tournament before he moved away from PDX to Asia, which was we're really excited for him and happy for him, but also big sad that he is no longer hanging out with us very much, at least in person. So it was super cool that he came out to Turkey Wars right before he flew out of the country. And also that he did very well. Max went 5-0, which was super sick. So well done to him. Also, like, creating his own list. Very unique list at that. And piloting it to great success. Unfortunately, my man's had a couple of rules mistakes in his last round against Jorge that, they kind of discussed and figured out after the fact. So they had to go in after the event and fix that. And basically what they did, I think, was they just swapped the scores so that Jorge ended up winning the game with the score that Max got, which was totally reasonable, and well done to Max for just owning up to that. Even like rules mistakes happen, very mature of him to just like confront that directly and make that happen. So yeah, well done to Max regardless. He like had a sick run at this event and did super well with a very unique list, and proud of you, buddy.
If anyone wanted to, like, he didn't make any mistakes in our game or any of his previous games. It was like one strat used out of sequence in his last game, and he was like, well, that was important. So he ended up conceding the game to Jorge after he realized he used the strat at the incorrect time.
Yep.
Very cool. All right, sweet. So both of the boys have fallen, but there's still a lot of event left to go. Lucas, our boy, gets to go into World Eaters, which on Dawn of War is a little sketchy. Running through this World Eaters list, we got the man, the myth, the legend. It's Angron himself, chosen of Khorne, Primarch of what Legion are World Eaters?
The World Eaters?
Wow, dude. Doesn't know his lore, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you mean the Legion number?
Yeah, what number?
12.
Primarch of the 12th Legion, coming in at probably like 32'4" and several thousand pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal and rage and blood and skull. Hell of a guy. He's making an appearance tonight. Beside him is his very normal-sized, kind of human friend, Karn. Invocatus, of course, because it's World Leaders. 2 Masters of Executions, one of which is the favorite of Khorne, so he can play Blood Yahtzee correctly. One of which has the funny glaive to hit people with. Got a squad of 10 Jackals, 3 squads of 10 Zerks, 3 squads, not 3, 1 squad of 3 8 bound. Wait, 3 squads of 10 Zerks?
Yeah, I was waiting for it.
Wait, what? King shit. 3 8 bound, 5 Terminators, sure. A Mauler Fiend. You cut off the rhinos, Lucas. How many rhinos does he have? Oh. Uh-oh.
No boxes for my guns to deal with.
All right, Lucas. Tell me about
this. With the 30 Berserkers, this is what Steve would call Giga Chad Omega based World Leader list, where it's just infantry dudes running around. So yeah, this as you can see from the scorecard, ended pretty quickly. This was also like an emotional roller coaster of a game, where I woke up and I had a great game against Jorge, but I was a little bit bummed out that I had lost, and I'm like, oh frick, what am I gonna get for Dawn of War? I can already feel this is gonna be iffy. And I look at the pairings and I see World Leaders and I'm like, shit. Well, this could be bad. I could get mega pressured on this mission. And then he goes first and I'm like, oh no. This is bad. This is bad. So my guy gets pretty aggressive. I do like a classic 8th edition ring your unit with ring your castle with crap, where I just stood the cultists in front of my gigantic wall of guns, like in an impenetrable line, because he literally has 0 guns to break through. So he has to like connect with the cultists first. And so he goes first, but he only like kills a bunch of cultists and Nurglings. He gets the +2 to move and advance and charge for his Blood Yahtzee, and Angron auto advances 6 across the midfield, 2 inches away from my cultist wall, slams into them and annihilates 10 cultists. I'm like, okay, well I got my work cut out for me. He's got 20 Berserkers on one objective, 10 Berserkers on another objective, Angron on my home objective. Let's see what I can kill. Target priority time. Nurgle Forge Fiend, Karn and 10 Berserkers instantly die. Okay, let's indirect with my Nurgle Obliterators. They killed, 10 more Berserkers and the favorite of Khorne, Master of Executions. I'm like, okay, well that's 20 Berserkers and 2 characters down. Undivided Obliterators, go! They killed 9 guys from the third squad of Berserkers. So I've killed 29 Berserkers and 2 characters. And then the final...
hate you.
The final Forge Fiend shoots and he kills the 3 8-pound with Invocatus. So I've killed 3 of his 4 characters and 29 of his 30 Berserkers and all of his 8-bound. So all he's got left is Angron, 1 character, 1 Berserker, his Jackals, and the 5 Terminators. And then Abaddon charges into Angron and cuts his head off. And I'm like, okay, well, I just killed 1,600 points. Over to you, buddy. And he's like, well, dude, I draw Cleanse and Engage. I get 3 on Cleanse, and I try to advance to get Engage and fail. And I'm like, sick. And then I table him. Pro tip,
wow.
Guys, don't try to vibe check CSM. They will just kill you. It was very sick. Oh, that was just like such a cathartic shooting phase. Just shooting, just laying down the law, putting the bullets downfield, and killing lots of World Leaders. Just not really anything to say here.
Alright, cool. Your army... Anyway,
yeah.
Moving on. Round 5, we're playing Sweeping Engagement, Lucas's favorite deployment, and one of the better ones for sure. hidden supplies. So we have 6 whole objectives, and take and hold, which is just hold 1, hold 2, hold 3. And it's time for our boy, Mr. Olson Johnson, to play into our other boy from BIFPOD OG, Mr. Mitchell Pelham, playing Space Wolves. Lucas, you want to run us through? Actually, no, I'm going to read this. I'm going to start this list, and then I'll hand it off to you, Lucas, midway through, okay? So he starts off with the Harm Assist with Bolter Discipline, and then, Lucas, you can take it from here.
So yeah, I don't know what that was, but did anyone hear something? It's just very, very strange sounds. Anyway, we got a biology professor with Bolter Discipline. We've got Bjorn.
Anyway, so we've got the Harm Assist with Bolter Discipline.
Tyler,
Bjorn,
you're in the.
We've got.
Do you want me to come and do unsavory to you, sir?
Don't.
Ryder. We've got 2 Wolfguard battle leaders on Stormwolf. We've got 2 Lords on Wolf, also with hammers. We got the 6 aggressors to go with the Harm Assist. We got a squad of 5 Fenrisian Wolves, a pack.
Fuck you.
A Storm Wolf, which is the plane. This man is bringing a plane in 10th edition of the year of our Lord 2023. 2 squads of 6 Thunderwolf Cav and a squad of 3 Thunderwolf Cav, and of course, a Calidus assassin to top it all off. Nicholas Olson Johnson, tell us about this battle of old versus new.
Yeah. So first off, this mission isn't like one of the GW official missions. I know that the event organizers are having a rough time trying to come up with a few missions that people really enjoyed playing because people don't really like a lot of the silly primaries this edition. But that's a discussion for another day, I guess. Anyways, this mission's sick. This mission's super fun. This one's basically old data scry, but you don't have to you still get 5 points for holding your backfield every turn, which is super cool. I think this mission is just, if you haven't tried it out, try it out. It's all over the place. There's tons of fighting. There's tons of primary to be had, but it's not like the other sweeping engagement one where you get 10 a turn and 15 at the end one that ends in a million ties. That one's boring. This one's very dynamic. And what a dynamic game to have when I'm playing cat and mouse with an army of dogs. So I played against Mitch at Harbor, and he was playing this pretty much exact same list. The difference was he had Canis Rex. Yep, he had Canis Rex instead of Bjorn the Calidus and the 3rd squad of Thunderwolves. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else on there. No, I think Canis was that many points. Yeah, so he opted to take him out, which was a smart decision because he's going a little bit more into just full pressure dogs. Bjorn and Calidus in this list, they're funny. They both have Vect. So if you decide to CP reroll something, he goes, no, 3 CP now. Or if you use other battle tactics, he can mess with those. It's pretty cool. The biologist with the Bolter Discipline obviously goes with the aggressors. They go in the Stormwolf, which is a plane that can start in hover mode, which means it is now a flying vehicle for the rest of the game with move speed 20. Which is very funny because it can zip 20 inches and just barf out the aggressors, wholly within 3, and unload into something. And then they can hop back in the plane if they want to next turn and drop down again the next turn. It also has a rule where when something disembarks from it normally, it is allowed to advance and still charge that turn. So if you get close enough to the Stormwolf, they can advance and charge out of it, which is pretty cool because they usually want to be living in Devastator Doctrine. So they have Storm of Fire, the Ignore AP, and all that. This one I knew was pretty much just going to be kill the Thunderwolves as fast as possible. That's exactly what we played last time. Although last time we played on the Search and Destroy supply drop ones, very close. This one we're a lot more spread out. I took Fixed because he has 30 characters. Or he gives up 30 assassinate points basically. And Homers, because Homers is just the good other one to take when you take Fixed. And Homers is giga easy on sweeping engagement. I token the 6, 6, and 3 Thunderwolf squads and the Aggressor squad because those are his 4 units. Yes. The battle leaders and Wolves and Logan on Stormrider hang out with the Thunderwolf Cav, and the Lords on Wolves do as well. The battle leaders and Wolves are pretty cool. They have a once per game Blood Surge when targeted. Blood Surge is move the unit d6 inches towards the closest enemy unit. And if you manage to end that move in combat, you are now in combat with them. So it really disincentivizes you from shooting them if they're close to you. Also just lets them lurch towards you, which is cool on a pressure list such as this. Turn 1, since I go first, I'm able to scout move a Sagittar that was deployed on the line, zip the Sagittar out, deploy a squad of 5 Hearthkin out. They tow into his top of his DZ, homers for 4. Let's go. I pretty much just hang back, pepper the Thunderwolves as much as possible, The one big squad of 6 comes down to one of my objectives in the bottom right. He takes it. A squad of Hearthguard. Deep Strike. 1 CP, sustained 2. Delete the squad. He does Blood Surge towards me to try to like lock stand back up wizard in combat. Fails it because he was trying to like get in combat so that like some Sagittars couldn't shoot him. That ends up making my charge way easier though, and I'm able to kill him in melee. Up top, he's diverting a lot of resources, the 6-man and the 3-man, to deal with 2 Sagittars, some bikes, and some Hearthkin that I've sent up there to like basically homers and like pull them away. He does end up managing to kill it over a few turns with Canis. I do finish off the 3-man Thunderwolf squad up there, but I haven't really bloodied the Stormwolf or the other 6-man squad. So it's this pretty cool game where like I've pulled him in one direction and then deleted him in this direction. Because he doesn't really have any guns, they're all inside of the Stormwolf, I'm able to rapid ingress onto an objective. This was actually something I was like never been able to pull off, but it was super fun. Ingressing onto the objective at the end of his turn, so when it passes to my turn, I get 15 on primary. Very fun. I then beeline towards his home field objective, which has the Bjorn and Calidus, or sorry, the Calidus and Bjorn on it. And my guys managed to beat them to death. Bjorn is pretty tanky, though. It takes like 2 turns, but luckily my Ignores Modifier squad ignores his half all damage and ignores AOC if he decides to use it. So they're pretty efficient at killing him. The Stormwolf aggressors, they did have to get out 1 turn to help clear the flank that I pushed up into. They do get back into the Stormwolf, which I do manage to shoot out of the sky, so now the aggressors are just hoofing it. And Logan and his giant squad is swooping into my back objective. This is a very fun and dynamic game, but eventually it's like there's just 6 aggressors foot slogging it. Canis, because all of his wolves are gone, and the big squad of Logan, who then my Hearthguard that initially killed that 6-man squad on turn 2, turn around and go and deal with Logan's squad. It ends with Logan in combat on like 2 health and like a Lord on Wolf on max health fighting like 2 Hearthguard and the Einhir champ and some aggressors trying to go take his home objective. And that ends the game. He's able to get that 15 primary at the end of the game, which swings him back up quite a bit. But I think it ends up being like 166 or something, or 68. So yeah, there we go, 166. As you can see, turn 2, I got a 16 on Assassinate. So this was a bloody game. It was a lot of fun. And this is another list that in our little wrap-ups I want to revisit because I think this list is pretty scary if you aren't prepared for it.
Very cool. Very cool. We'll swing back around to hear a little bit more about Marines in the future, but we got to finish off first. Lucas going into a Hive Nexus Tyranids list. I do know a Tyranid player, so we'll see if I can figure out what's going on here. We're playing Hive Nexus. This is our boy Bagwell, Slayer of Lennon. So this is a game between 2 people who have beaten John Lennon on stream. Hell yeah. Playing in Nexus, which is funnily enough generally what Lennon plays. But he's got Deathy. He's got a Tyrant with Synaptic Control. It's -1 damage, mandatory. He's got Neurotyrant with Power of the Hive Mind. So he's a tiny little Tyrannifex running around. We got a Biovore, because you got to have a Biovore. Para-Exos, Para-Maliceptors. 3 Neurolictors, probably the right number. 2 Norn Emissaries, because Bagwell is out here to Norn a mother trucker. And lastly, 3 Solo Pyrovores, because Pyrovore, why would you not? This list is a lot of gun. Pow pow. It shoots really hard. And it stands places pretty darn well. And it does it with a lot of invulns, which can make math really complicated. Norns also have that feel no pain. So like there's some serious durability here. And between the 3 Neurolictors and the 3 Solo Pyrovores and Score Mines, like you're just going to pick up points. You're just gonna. So I think this is a very legitimate list. I'm not personally based in Nornfeld. I think they're terrible. But they do... I will admit that they offer some challenges, some problems that other individuals are not always well equipped to solve. And it is nice to bring a list that some people just can't solve at all before you even do anything about it. So they've definitely provided an opportunity to win the list building stage. Anyway, talk to us about this game, Lucas. Looks like you got bagged. What happened?
I did get bagged. It was a really fun game. This is one of the lists that can actually vibe check CSM just because of all the good invulns and tons of high toughness excuse me, wounds, some feel no pains on the most forward elements, and in particular, a lot of the leadership stuff, because CSM depends so heavily on their stratagems and the need to get the primary points that are available to them. Things like Shadows in the Warp and Neurolictors are really punishing to them. So this was indeed a game in which I got bagged. Joss is a fantastic opponent. I had a ton of fun against him. Took fixed against him. I figured with all the monsters, bring it down would probably be something close to a 20, and then obviously deploy Teleport Homer, the easiest secondary in the West. Just got a 15 on that guy. Josh basically maxed his score. With my very limited screening and his units all over the place, it was very easy for him to just accomplish the tactical deck. And then also, with all the objectives that were on the board, we spent the whole game fighting over like the top left corner. You know, if I'm in the bottom left, we spent the whole game fighting over the top left corner, which meant that the objectives that were on like the bottom right hand side of the board were basically uncontested. So he got lots of 15s and 10s, whereas I kind of struggled to get 5s and 10s. Those like 5 or 10 points that I slipped there ended up costing me the game, so I lost 85-95. Super interesting game. Definitely thought that this was one that was CSM favored. I thought I would have just like pointed guns at him and shot him. But it turns out that, you know, a combination of a couple things, like 2-up armor with AOC can actually be problematic for CSM because all of their guns are AP3, especially the ones that want to go into really tough targets like that. AP3 against 2-up AOC actually leaves you on a 3-up armor, which means that, you know, once you also then factor in the Feel No Pain, Obliterator activations are only doing like half a dozen damage to a Norn, which is not fantastic at all. So really took me more time than I thought it was going to actually chew through a lot of the big bugs, and I actually ended up doing it. By the end of the game, I tabled him down to a Biovore, but it just took way too long, and he had scored all the points by that point. There was definitely some funny moments in this game. He popped Shadow in the Warp on turn 3, and I passed literally every single check, including on 2 Leadership 8 Nurglings and 2 Leadership 7 Cultists. This was while his Neurotyrant was alive. I was like, okay, ready? 7, 8, 10, 11, 11, 9, 10. And I'm like, this is sick, dude. Oh, let's go, strat time. So that was pretty goofy. But Bagwell took it in stride. He was a fantastic opponent.
You know that the universe is gonna bounce that back at you, dude. At Atomic, when there's like a critical turn and someone makes all their leadership checks against your CK.
No, Lucas is next time Lucas plays Tyranids, he's gonna fail every single morale check.
I will say, thinking about Tyranids while playing CK is really scary because one weakness of them is leadership 7 on all the dogs. But anyway, yeah, Abaddon's final kill count for this game was a Norn, the -1 damage Tyrant, the Neuro flip through the Neuro Tyrant. God, this is way too many Neuros. So yeah, Norn, Tyrant, Neuro Tyrant, 2 Exocrines, and a Pyrovore. So my guy went on a rampage. It was super fun to have Dawn just like do his thing and just run from thing to thing, smashing it in the face. It was so sick. But yeah, super fun game.
Hell yeah. Sweet. So, at the end of that, finish up. What is that? 4-1 for Nick and 3-2 for Lucas?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good stuff, boys. Sweet. Reflections on the event? How do y'all feel? List changes, stuff like that, and then we can start talking about the meta as it grows further. I know Nick wants to talk about Marines. We'll get there in a sec.
3 and 2 is obviously not what I'd hoped for, but I'm honestly not all that surprised. It was a new faction and playing an archetype that I'm not at all familiar with, so it was fun to get to experiment with it, but I'm not surprised that it didn't do too well. But yeah, I had a lot of fun games, and at least the losses that I took, I could like point to specific things where I'm like, oh, that's a mistake that I made that lost me the game, or like this was a list imbalance that I had coming into the round that put me at a severe disadvantage. So I was like easily able to identify those things, which gave me some solace and made me feel a little bit better. But yeah, it was a really fun event overall. I had a blast in both losses and wins, and yeah, just excited for the next one.
Yeah, for me, I've been considering like a few different changes. Obviously, like I've been slowly building up to the 6 Sagittars. That's like a very popular build, but that build was very popular for a few weeks. Now people are talking about 4 again. They're talking about 5 again. It's kind of really comes back to like what mix of Sagittars, Bikes, Hearthguard, and Thunderkin you want to run, because you have to make concessions there. You're allowed to pick 2 packages to run a lot of, and then like a 3rd package to like dabble into. Basically, it's kind of what most Votann lists boil down to. I know there's people that like land fortresses. I don't really like them. Go play with them if you want to have fun. Like that's totally fine. They're a fine unit, but
I feel like you feel like land force the way I feel about Norns. Like,
no,
man,
I
that
respect
thing's
them.
Real durable.
You said the Norn was a piece of unplayable trash when you saw it, so I don't think the
looks
Hecaton's
really
unplayable.
bad on paper.
Yeah,
I've come a long way from there. I still don't like it, but like
I think it was also just me playing Hecatons because they were like the only viable tank in the book back. Well, they were so much better than Sagittars on release. I played 2 Hecatons for so long now. I enjoy playing something else.
Yeah,
so
I feel that.
Yeah. I created a list with a lot more trash. I think the big thing here was Votann. Everywhere you listen about them, you hear that they're the army that has so much stuff. Like they have so many activations. And I think since then, I've been kind of getting away with a few games because I just have more stuff than my opponent. Like I've made a few mistakes and it's like, well, I at least have 3 more activations, so we're good. And I hit Max for the first time where he had more stuff than me. So it was like a few like key places whiffed where I kind of overextended a little bit. And then I was like, everything fell apart because like this lived too much, then that lived too much. It was just living a bunch of stuff on like not fully dead. And then he still had all those units when it went back to his turn. And he was just able to keep that pressure up on me. So I think learning how to play into those armies that do exist, that do have more activations than me. And also I think certain times too, like learning to take concessions. I'm still kind of playing this as like still learning how to play Votann in 10th. And I think there's like a little bit too much of a focus on like kind of the basics where it's like, you know, oh, we need to deny primary this turn. Like, so they don't get the 5. It's like, well, I think there's sometimes you kind of have to be like going over there, trying to kill stuff that has no tokens and hitting on 4s, wounding on my base value is not going to be that good when I can go over here and hit stuff that has 1 or 2 tokens and like kill it and like give them their 10 points over there. But like now this side of the board is cleared. So I think focusing more on that, just general gameplay wise is good. I was considering cutting the Hearthguard, like 10 of the Hearthguard, because they're a huge amount of points. They need a character because that -1 to wound is so good. It makes them live a lot longer. They're one of the units that looks really tanky on paper because they're 2 up armor with access to AOC, but them only having 2 wounds and like the vast amount of damage 2 in the game means that sometimes someone just points at you and goes, all right, dude, take 15 3-up saves. And then you fail like 8 of them. And there goes 8 Hearthguard. And now your 400-point unit doesn't do anything. So I've considered a list with 10 and like way more bikes and like way more Thunderkin and a 6 Sagittar. But I think with the dawn of Marines, I do actually think the Hearthguard are so efficient at killing Marines that you kind of do to stick around with 20. So I'm probably going to play a very similar list at Atomic. That's, yeah, kind of my main takeaway.
Very cool, very cool. Is list lock not happened for Atomic yet?
Sunday. So we got 2 days
gotcha.
as of this show.
If you're listening live or you're going to Cali Cup list lock is in like an hour and 45 minutes. So get those lists in. Anyway, let's take a step back here, talk about where things are going as a whole. Nick, you said you were really interested in this new Marine book. I haven't even played into it yet. What are you? What's going on here? What do you think about the Oda? It seems like people are taking Marines in some particular directions, and we're taking Marines in some very different directions.
Yeah.
What's the lay of the land?
I think the obvious stuff that stands out is like the shooting builds are good. Like Ironstorm is very like smooth brain, push dreadnoughts around, lethal hit Sora, you know, like have fun. There's the aggressor stuff, not aggressor, the flamer aggressors and like plasma and scepter stuff, and like the salamanders build. It's pretty cool. There's whirlwinds, like all that shooting stuff's good. I think there's some very viable, like more mixed arms builds out there. Like the Templar stuff, the big changes is like the Templar build, you can still play that in the Templar's Detachment, which is what Max plays. I don't think they really got any. Actually, I think their points went down. He's able to put more stuff in his list now. And the big thing is he does lose wound rerolls from oaths, which is a damage output decrease for sure. One of the big changes that he's able to get, though, is he's able to grab a character. The funny, the Castellan, he's like that Black Templar lieutenant, basically. He's like the stumpy little guy that they like recreated in the 3rd edition pose. So he can put that guy in his unit instead of the Primaris Apothecary and his unit of Sword Bros, and that gives them all lethal hits. And then Helbricht gives whatever units he's leading crit hits on 5s. So now the Sword Bros unit has 5s lethals, and I think can get 5s explode from somewhere as well. Yeah. Either from swearing the vow, or Helbricht just gives sustain to his unit. I forget. No,
he gives his unit crit 5s and +1 strength, and then you can swear an oath for either lethal hits or exploding. So if you're getting lethal from the lieutenant, then you swear exploding hits, and then you get exploding and lethal 5s.
Yeah. So I think that Templar's build is really, really good, because I think that the Crusaders, not the Primaris Crusader squad, the basic Crusader squad is like a fucked up like mission playing unit. Like that thing's at 65 points, 3 up armor, 2 wounds, OC2, and you can just like load them all up in rhinos, and you can take like that generic oath to make them all like leadership 5/6 that feel no pain. Like that is like activation lock to the extreme when you also push like Primaris, Crusaders in their face. Land Raider full of Sword Brethren in their face with Helbricht. That unit hits like a freight train. Redemptors, also a very good pressure unit. They're very hard to kill. 2 up, access to AOC, 6 of Feel No Pain. Usually always in cover because they're toes behind a wall. -1 damage. Like, I think that something like that can be very good. And those Crusaders, I think, are like the backbone of that list. They're so good at playing the mission. It's basically my Votan list, dudes in cars, but with a really scary melee unit that's pretty tanky because it has 3 up armor, access to AOC, 5 up Feel No Pain. They all have 3 wounds each, which is really good because there's a lot of 2 damage, so they soak up multiple activations of your weapon. Sometimes they roll 3 5 up Feel No Pains, and or they roll 2 and they soak up 3 2 damage weapons. It's good, and I think people are kind of sleeping on Templars. Obviously, the shooting builds might be better. Melee always comes down to that downside of you fail, a 4-inch charge with a reroll, and you're like, I lose the game. But I think that there's a lot of people that don't know how to deal with pressure well, and you can just push that into their face, and they make the wrong choices, or they whiff, and they get ran over.
I am super surprised we haven't seen more of the Crusaders. In addition to just like being great mission play, very durable for the cost, they also like have 2 Power Fists, a Melta Gun, and Inferno Pistol like on 5 guys, and everyone else gets a Chainsword. It's like, what the hell is this unit? You can fit 2 of them in a Rhino. It's 3 units that are very tough for like a combined 100 or 205 points or something like that. It's insane. Like, as someone who's playing Boys and Trucks for the longest time, it's better by a wild margin for like only a small points increase. So I think people should experiment with those a lot more because they seem insane to me.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
The other lists. Sorry, if we're not.
I was just I'm very excited to see some more of that. Hopefully, bummer that Max is lives across an ocean now, but hopefully someone else picks up the mantle where he left it off. What's the other thing we got going on? I feel like there's another list worth mentioning.
Yeah, the other one is basically that list that Mitch made, the Thunderwolf list. I know Thunderwolves are a bit of a meme because they're cavalry, and cavalry is usually not that good at moving around boards and everything. But it's like actually pretty good at moving around these GW boards because there's a lot of those 2-inch ruins like at the end of buildings now that you just ignore for movement purposes. So you can't end on like whatever ruin is on there, but you can move right through it, even if you're mounted, which is cool. So the White Scars one, the Storm Lance or Storm Spear, whatever it's called. That one is our boy Colby Hopkins is playing a Thunderwolf version in that detachment, which I think is pretty cool because it gives the whole army advance and charge at all times and fallback and charge at all times. A big weakness of that list is the Thunderwolves do a ton of damage on the charge. So you actually can like whittle them down and bump them with like some tankier unit and hold them in combat. And now you can't because they fall back and charge all the time. Also, advance and charge all the time is really good. One of the ways to play around that old list was they have the once per game army-wide advance and charge with Caladius, and you can kind of bait that out. Kind of like, the wall. You know it's just happening once. Other cool things about that is they have 1 CP -1 to hit and wound. I don't know if it's shooting only.
Yeah,
or
shooting
also
only.
Shooting only battle tactic.
Yeah, which because all of those guys have a captain in them, they can repeat it. Not the Logan squad though; that one can't. AOC is also still a stratagem for all of them, but so they can be very tanky. And the other funny thing that they have is they have that reactive move strat that like Palladius has, but it's even better. If you end any type of move within 9 of them, they can immediately normal move flat 6.
Yep.
That combined with the blood surge into combat once per game means you have to be very careful when moving around these Thunderwolves because they might just scam you and like leap into combat with you after your first activation.
Yeah, it's
another thing too is auto
messed
advance 9 for a CP for 2 CP.
Yep.
Is that one a battle tactic?
No, thankfully.
Thankfully. All right, so sometime in the mid game they can just zoom 19 inches towards you. And last but not least, the detachment lets you come in from reserves 1 turn earlier. So what you can do is take something like Logan's squad of boys and put them in strat reserves and then ingress them turn 1. So say you go first and you're like, all right, I'll push my screens up. Your opponent goes, cool. End of your first movement phase. Here's 500 points of wolves behind a wall. They're going to auto advance 9. They can't auto advance 9 next turn.
They sure can. Because you'll gain 1, 2, 3 by your second movement phase. And you're ingressing on.
If I go first, you're ingressing my bottom 1.
So the Space Wolf player goes first. The Space Wolf player ingresses bottom of 1 for 1 CP. And by his second movement phase, he'll have gained 1, 2, top of turn 2, 3 CP. So he'll spend 1 on ingress and 2 to auto advance 9.
Yeah, I'm talking about if you go first. Say you're playing against the Space Wolf.
The Space Wolf player goes second?
Yes. They ingress your bottom 1.
Then there's no way for them to auto advance. Yeah.
But still, now you have to make the decision of, do I like sprint up the board to screen the turn 1 ingress? Or do I let them like come in 9 inches off my like not very pushed up lines? And there's still a bunch of guys on the board. I think there's a lot of movement tricks with that people just aren't going to be prepared for. And that's something, if you like mess up your movement or shooting into that army, you just die. You just get run over.
Yep.
They still have access to Lance. And that's detachment as well. So like their damage output is not that much worse. And a big thing is, yes, they lose the wound rerolls in melee, but the Wolf Guard Battle Leader gives the squad lethal hits. So you can still oath to target and fish for 6s to hit. So, and even if you don't oath to target, Logan can once per game army-wide chapter master. So you can just fish for your lethal hits once per game on your go turn. It's a cool list that I think if you aren't ready for it, you're gonna get dogged.
Yeah, it'll definitely surprise you the first time you play against it. I certainly was surprised.
So yeah, be on the lookout for those.
It's a dog o'clock.
Yeah, Harry in the chat saying, what is it about the Crusaders? It tilts me that they get that for cheaper PPM than a tac squad, lol. It is pretty silly that a Crusader squad is cheaper than a tactical squad and can take 3 different meltdown weapons as well for free.
And it's just better. Better by every conceivable stretch of the imagination.
They reroll advances and charges for free as well. Yeah.
Yes, they reroll advance and charge, but you lose out on the tactical marine ability, dude. You can't combat squad. Unlucky.
Oh shit, dude. I can't combat squad my battle line.
What if I could just take a 5-man squad to begin with?
Yeah. That's the fun thing about Crusaders. Wow. Is the whole thing is like they're supposed to be like the guys training the scouts, but you only have to take the scouts if you take a 10-man. So if you take the 5-man, you just get the 5 power armor points.
Yeah, it's silly.
So yeah.
Very cool. Another question in the chat here. John asks for general tips on playing into swarm nids. Specific things that he needs to be doing with his scout moves to avoid getting drowned at bodies. Gargoyles make him big sat. Understandable. I'm actually not the right person to answer this question. I feel like that would be this guy, who actually plays into Swarm Nids, as opposed to my biased opinion on just how they should beat you. So I'd love to hear from Lucas on this, and I'll make some extra comments if I think of anything else.
Yeah, I haven't like fully figured it out yet because I'm only like a couple of games in, but general principles are, I mean, it depends what you're playing. In general, you want to just like control the entirety of your DZ. Don't let him deep strike. Don't let him throw extra stuff back there. And then every turn, just push as far as you can forward. This has to involves like a bunch of weird movement stuff because you have to be cognizant of his blood surge and to like try to get in combat with you and deny your primary and that kind of thing. But just in general, move as forward as possible every single turn. You're just going to want to get on the objectives and shoot him to death because otherwise the swarm player will beat you on primary. The issue that I ran into the first couple times was, I did that, but then left holes in my backfield because I was pushing everything forward. If you can just allocate 2 or 3 crap units to just like sit in your backfield and prevent him from dropping spore mines in your backfield, gargoyles, that kind of thing, you're gonna do yourself a lot of good because otherwise they'll take over your backfield as well as like pressure your front. But yeah, if you just like sit in your DZ and try to like hide and play angles, it's not that kind of game. It's like an entirely different game. Like when you're playing against a melee army, it's not about the angles, right? It's about the tempo of when your units engage and where. Similar kind of thing, except it's less about the tempo. It's more about just like push forward as much as possible so you don't lose on points. You have to be aggressive in this game, otherwise you're probably going to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. If your plan is to melee, don't shoot. Like, it's really tempting to be like, man, I want to get every you have so many bodies, I want to use every bullet that I've got done. Right. Be really cognizant of where you're applying firepower and when and how, because it can be a really awkward situation when you're like, all right, cool, I'm going to charge you with like 7 units, and then all those units are going to get to charge move, and then pile in, and then console. Like, we're getting places, or just console, because the first unit will kill them all. But if you shoot that unit and oops, everyone's in combat now already, no one gets to charge and no one gets to activate if they're not within an inch. So you can run into a lot of really awkward scenarios where suddenly your first unit fights, kills 5 Gargs. I pull the 1 Garg in combat with 4 other units, and suddenly nobody's activating and you're stuck. So if you're going into shoot to kill, and otherwise kind of don't bother. But yeah, apply the pressure, disrespect the damage. Disrespect the damage entirely. It's not real. I love it when my opponents hide shit for no reason. Also, Overwatch. Big thing. Use Overwatch a lot when possible. Obviously, there's the unfortunate conjunction of if you Overwatch after they move and then they blood surge into combat with you, be careful. But like generally speaking, Overwatch.
If you have good Overwatch, like if you have Obliterators near Abaddon or Flash Gits or Thunderkin or aggressors or something like that can actually just like do appreciable damage to one of these squads, go for it. Also try to multi-kill the squads. Shoot to kill, like Tyler was saying, where just you try to kill squads. But if at all possible, try to kill multiple squads in the same turn. I mean, that's easier said than done, right? Like, just kill as much as possible. But they can only use their revive strat, once per phase. And so there's that limiter as well. And they kind of, the tempo of that is they want to lose like 1, maybe 2 bricks of their 20 gribbly squads every battle round or something like that. So if you can bump that number to like 2 or 3 instead of 1 or 2, they'll rapidly start running out of bodies, and then you can find yourself with an open battlefield by like turn 4 instead of turn 5.
Yeah, if you can winnow a gargoyle squad, leave it winnowed. 3 gargoyles don't do anything. Mm-hmm. If you kill those and I get the full 20 back, I'm a very happy camper. But that 3-man is not doing much. And then finish all the squads at once. Good thought there. Cool. Yeah. Go. Just go. Cool. All right. That's that. Unless anyone else has any other questions of things that they'd love to hear us talk about. I think that's about all that we got to cover for today. Anything else you guys want to mention or plug or whatnot?
That is all.
There's definitely something, but it's too late for me to remember.
Matt Wood's GT is super full, so we don't need to plug that.
Come to Slaanesh in early December. It's like the
December
first
would be
weekend
great.
of December, something like that. One of the biggest tournaments, if not the biggest tournament in the Northwest. Come to it, or you're an idiot. Why Lucas not play the Orcs? Because I want to shoot people. I'm tired of getting shot myself. You know what I'm saying? I just like when the guns go brrr.
Excellent. But yeah, come to Slaanesh. It's going to be great. I think McJurek just to hit us up, confirm that he's going to be there. It's going to be a great time. Place is super cheap and super fun. Check out Aegis Open or whatever they're calling it. Come first weekend of March. That's going to be hype.
I remembered what I wanted to say because it was related to orcs. I was on Art of War Down Under last week, talking about orcs with Adam Camilleri and Tyler Russo, which was really, really fun. Ended up being a good show. So if you're interested in hearing about where orcs are in the current meta, you should go check that out and subscribe to Adam's Patreon because there's a second episode that was really sick.
Very cool. Yeah, so check that all out. If you're coming to Atomic City Warzone or Warzone Atomic City, what's it called?
Atomic City Warzone.
Atomic City Warzone next weekend or Cali Cup next weekend. Please come by and say hi. We'll give you a sticker. But other than that, keep on rocking on and playing 40K. We're obviously going to be at those respective tournaments next weekend, but I believe we'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about how they went.
Nope, that's Beach Hammer.
Oh, yep. Well, we'll be having some fun doing that. We'll be back on Saturday, the 18th of November to talk about it. And we had better be because right after that's going to be Thanksgiving and then Slaanesh. So hopefully we'll be here at that time. Bird's out here trying to shill things that aren't announced yet. Shut up, Bird. But thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. And with that all being said, thank you so much for listening.
What is Bird
Tyler.
saying?
I don't listen to him. He works for the bourgeoisie. Anyway, what am I trying to say here? I've been Tyler.
Ah, it's Lucas, baby. Snowy dog! Snowy dog!
Very excited.